Good evening, North Carolina, and welcome to the Al-Pam News Network. I'm Carol, and I'm your host for the evening for tonight's special segment, where we're going to delve into the heart of justice and politics. Tonight, we have a very distinguished guest with us, Judge Valarie Zachary, who's currently serving on the Court of Appeals in North Carolina and is running for re-election. Welcome, Judge Zachary. It is truly an honor to have you here.
Well, thank you, Carol. Thank you for that very generous introduction. I'm very glad to be here.
Thank you, Judge. Judge, you have had already quite an illustrious career, both in law and in public service. You have served North Carolina for several years now, and you're seeking re-election to continue that service. Can you share with our viewers a bit about what drives you to seek another term on the Court of Appeals?
You know, Carol, I never thought I would be a politician. My teachers wanted me to be a lawyer, but I'm the oldest of five. And when I was 7, our father left, and so my mother was raising the 5 of us by herself. So I don't know how anyone was really that sure I was going to be a lawyer. But I got a scholarship to Michigan State University, and then I went to Harvard Law School. But I wanted to come back to North Carolina, so I took a position on the litigation team at Kennedy, Covington, Lobdell, and Hickman in Charlotte, and I worked there, and they were great. But then I married my husband, and I ended up back in Yadkin County again, which is where I started. And that was wonderful. And I practiced with my husband for 26 years. And one day we were looking at a thing called e-bar, and that's like email that the bar sends out to lawyers. And they said they had an opening on the Court of Appeals. And I told my husband, because I'm a real research and writing nerd. And so I told my husband, I said, oh, that'd be the best job ever if I could be on the Court of Appeals. And he thought I was insane because he would hate that.
Different strokes.
That's right. But so next thing I know, he and some other people ganged up on me and they said, just file. So I filed. Then it's just go to this event, just go to this. The next thing I know, I'm running. Next thing I know, I'm on the Court of Appeals. And of course, it's a perfect job for me. But, serving there, I love research and writing, so from my perspective, it's great for me. But I also want to make sure that cases are handled fairly. And I want to make sure that decisions come out in a timely manner. And so, as they say, justice delayed is justice denied.
Yes, ma'am.
And also, I want to feel like people like me have a representative on the court. That
Yes, ma'am.
there's somebody who knows what it's, like to be a regular person.
Yep, I got you. Thank you, Judge, for that. Judge, your campaign emphasizes putting the law first. Could you elaborate on what that means to you and how it guides your approach to judicial decision-making?
Well, that's a great question, Carol. The way I learned it, there are 3 co-equal branches of government, and the legislature makes the laws. And so regardless of a judge's personal opinion, it's not the judge's job to make law. We are supposed to apply the law. And actually, on the Court of Appeals, it's an error correcting court. We're supposed to look and see if the trial court made an error, and then basically author an opinion explaining why the trial court erred or didn't. We're not supposed to be making law. And so I'm just up there trying to stay in my lane, and just call it either whether I like the law or don't like the law, because that's not my job.
That, Judge, is a refreshing answer. Thank you. You're just calling balls and strikes, right?
Yep.
There you go. Judge, thank you. And you've had a diverse legal career, from practicing law in a Charlotte firm to running your own practice in Yadkinville. How have these experiences shaped your perspective as a judge?
When I was at Kennedy Covington in Charlotte, we represented big companies, so like general counsel for Mitsubishi, you might call and say, okay, what's going on with the case? I came to Yadkinville, I was representing regular people. We have, just regular people with their everyday legal problems.
Yes, ma'am.
And, and so I handled, we were general practitioners, so we did everything pretty much that a person could need. And, family law, tax, some tax law, trust, estate administration, receiverships, and just everything. I didn't really do much. I did some criminal. My husband did more of that. But these are the same cases that we see at the Court of Appeals.
Yeah.
So it's been perfect preparation
Good.
for joining the Court of Appeals. And
Pretty close.
yeah, so my experience with those cases is an asset to the court. Just like other people, have their special, thing that they specialized in, which is great.
Mhm.
We have a question about that. But the other thing is I understand the impact, the real world impact our decisions have,
Excellent. Yeah.
with someone. And so, I think that's important. And I think sometimes just having somebody on the court to kind of call a foul, like I remember a case I had where the father was a missionary, and the husband and wife had been in Africa, and they had been some other places, and he was a missionary when they met.
Mm-hmm.
They divorced. She's in North Carolina, and all of a sudden the kid shouldn't be going to visit him because otherwise the child's going to miss all the summer activities. Okay. And the panel that I was on was going to go along with that.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And I was able to say, wait a minute, kids need dads too,
Good for you.
and,
Yes,
and so I was able to persuade them to go the opposite way.
terrific. Thank you.
And so I just think that sometimes sometimes you just need somebody there to say, wait it, whoa, let's think about this.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Thanks for that. Judge, throughout your tenure on the Court of Appeals, you've been known for your commitment to upholding the North Carolina Constitution. How do you balance this commitment with the evolving legal landscape and societal changes?
North Carolina has a great constitution. It's actually more protective of individual rights than the U.S. Constitution. We have more rights guaranteed. If you look, we have a whole section in the North Carolina Constitution that's titled Declaration of Rights.
Mm-hmm.
And it's got 37 subsections, as opposed to the Bill of Rights, which only has 10.
Right.
So, yay, North Carolina there.
Hey, North Carolina.
I know.
Yeah, Judge.
But I think the text should be interpreted based on what the understanding was at the time of the adoption, aside from the judge's personal preference. And the thing is, a lot of this language is very broad.
Mm-hmm.
So it does apply. You say, well, how can something that was applicable, back then, still be good now? Well, because it's broadly written. These are themes, that can still be applied today. And if you don't think that our Constitution addresses something, there's a way to fix that. We can amend it, just
Yes.
like we do with voter ID. Our Constitution didn't say anything about voter ID, and so the people of North Carolina amended it.
That's right. That's right. Thank you, Judge. Thanks. And Judge, North Carolina is a very diverse state with varying perspective on legal issues. How do you ensure that your decisions on the bench are fair and impartial, considering this diversity?
I don't think being fair and impartial means, I just don't think that it means that I'm going to make everybody happy.
Right.
And North Carolina is very diverse. I've been all over this state. And when I ran in 2016 as well, it's Johnny Carson said one time that North Carolina was the most beautiful state in the country. And I think he's right.
Me too.
We're so lucky. But it is very diverse, and it's becoming more diverse every day.
Yes, ma'am.
But, being fair and impartial doesn't mean making everybody happy. It means applying the law fairly to everybody,
Yes,
the
ma'am.
same to everybody. And so that's what I try to do.
Thank you, Judge. And Judge, campaigns often highlight accomplishments and promises. Could you share with us a particular case or decision during your time on the Court of Appeals that you are particularly proud of or that exemplifies your judicial philosophy?
Well, I mean, one I think that probably covers both of those is DeBrule versus Mecklenburg County Sheriff. DeBrule was a veteran, and he had a concealed carry permit and needed to renew it. Okay, so he applied for renewal, and the sheriff denied him. And it was a very, I mean, it really was a very unclear denial. Just basically, no, you don't get to have a concealed carry.
Okay.
In so many words, okay?
Arbitrary.
And so he appealed. Okay, so you would appeal to the district court judge in Mecklenburg. Okay, so they didn't let him attend, and he didn't know what he could send in a letter, but he didn't know what to say in the letter because they never really said why they wouldn't renew his permit. So the sheriff and the judge met and decided he would not be renewed, but he didn't have an opportunity to say a word, you know, which I think is blatantly unconstitutional.
Yes, ma'am.
Like, he has the right to have an opportunity to be heard, you know, on his behalf. And so they send out, and the judge issues an order indicating that he can't have his concealed carry renewed because he has a mental infirmity. Well, they didn't say what his mental infirmity was, and he didn't get to defend himself and say, no, I don't, what are the grounds for that? And so I got a little worked up about that one, but, and so we reversed and sent it back, and because I don't think that's fair.
Yes, ma'am.
And I'm the oldest of 5 kids. I want things to be fair.
That's a pretty interesting case. That would have been a big dilemma. That was a toughie. Thank you, Judge, for that. So, Judge, running for re-election involves reconnecting with constituents. What are some key issues or concerns that you've been hearing from the people of North Carolina during your campaign this time?
It's really great to go around and get to see so many people. There are a lot of great people out there working really hard that really care, and care about how, the direction our country's taking. I think people are concerned about, there are a lot of issues they're concerned about, but with regard to the judicial races, I think they want to elect judges who are fair and impartial. I think there's a lot of concern about, crime, which, I'm not a law enforcement officer and I'm not a legislator, but, I sure can, support our trial courts who are trying to hold people accountable. And, or like, the same thing with, people worried about, whether, that our democracy is still working, and that the courts, people want to know that the courts are there to protect their rights, and protect our society.
Yep. And that's what you're hearing.
That's what I'm hearing, and that's what I'm trying to do.
Thank you, Judge. Judge, your background includes significant involvement in your local community and church. How do these personal experiences inform your approach to serving on the Court of Appeals?
Carol, I was so lucky. When I came up here to Yadkin County, the house, the church, the school, the daycare, and the office were all within a mile.
Wow. Goodness.
So I was chair of children's ministry, so I could pop over to the church and do stuff, come back to the office, go to the school and do something there, go for Valentine's Day or whatever, volunteer over there, or daycare or whatever, and and a lot of people don't get to do that, and so I'm very grateful that I was able to do that. And I want to protect that kind of community, and the opportunity to do that kind of thing, and for people to be involved in their communities like that.
Absolutely.
And, and I think we, sometimes we forget, what a blessing it is to us to be involved and to volunteer.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Judge. Judge, as we approach the upcoming election, what message would you like to convey to the voters of North Carolina about your vision for the judiciary and why they should reelect you to the Court of Appeals?
Well, I was appointed to the court in 2015 and then ran statewide in 2016 and won my seat on the court. The seat that was vacated by Judge Sanford Stillman from Union County. And those are big shoes to fill.
Yes,
But
ma'am.
as a practicing attorney in Charlotte and Yadkin County, I handled a wide variety of cases. And so I bring a different perspective to the court than many of our judges. As the oldest of 5 children, I want everything to be fair, and I want and impartial. And as one of the longest serving judges on our appellate courts, I offer experienced leadership. And so right now I'm serving my 4th term on the North Carolina Sentencing Commission, and I've authored approximately 600 opinions, which you can review at nccourts.org. I've held fast to the principle that the Court of Appeals is an error-correcting court, and that we are tasked with providing a fair forum to resolve disputes. And as such, it's not our role to make policy or law. My website is reelectjudgezachary.com, and I thank you for your consideration of my candidacy.
Judge, thank you. Viewers, that concludes our special segment tonight, and I want to extend my heartfelt thanks to Judge Valarie Zachary for joining us and sharing her insights and wisdom. Remember, North Carolina, your voice does matter, especially when it comes to the judiciary. Stay informed, stay engaged, most of all, exercise your right to vote. Until next time, this is Carol saying good night and thank you to everyone. Good night, everybody.